What is up? We are back with another video, and I'm a little more lively this time. I don't know why I was like morose and dead in the last video, but it is officially 2021. We are out of 2020 and we're in the new year, and we're fast approaching the tournament season. The end of this month, January, Kissimmee Trail KBF event kicks off the entire national trail season. With that being said, you're probably out there wondering if you need to switch your kayak, buy a new kayak, get into a new brand, and you're having trouble finding the right one for you. Well, this isn't that video yet, that's coming, but this one has to do with the two flagship models from NuCanoe. This is comparing the NuCanoe Frontier 12 to the NuCanoe Pursuit. I own both of these boats, and let me tell you, they are both awesome. I love them. They do a lot of things really well. They both have their shortcomings, but let's go over what makes them good, as well as the differences between them as to why you might pick one over the other. That's going to be the main point of this video, is to find out if you'd rather be in the Frontier 12 or the NuCanoe Pursuit. So let's hop in it. We're going to check out the website. We're going to go through a few things and talk about the actual specs as they're laid out in front of you. So let's hop over to the computer and we'll check out NuCanoe's website, which is actually pretty slick, and we'll go through both of the boats. So we are on the NuCanoe website, and I have the Frontier 12 page pulled up because I did my most recent video on the Frontier 12, and I think it's just relevant to what I've been talking about on the channel. So it's, to me, exactly what everything that this website says. And I think, to be completely honest, it's exceeded my expectations and been better than anything they could type on this page. So let's hop into some of the features of the NuCanoe Frontier 12. We'll be fast on this one since we went over it in the last video I did, but I'm still gonna hit some key points with this, so let's hop into it. All right, so NuCanoe Frontier 12, the ultimate hunting and fishing platform. That's key because a lot of guys who waterfowl hunt and even use water to access their deer blind locations choose the Frontier 12 because you can take a lot of stuff with you. That's a big reason why hunters will choose this boat. Plus, it's got a pretty sick camo pattern, so that's another reason. But the ultimate hunting and fishing platform, I do agree with that. It's got amazing versatility to do both really well. So rock solid and completely customizable with a wide open deck that is full of potential. Everything I went over in my last video in that first sentence. Rigged up or stripped down, again, something I talked about in my last video, where you can rig it to the T or you can just leave it bare bones and it's still going to be an amazing platform. Fishing or hunting, solo or tandem. That's a big point for this boat, is that you can put a second seat in this and go tandem. You can move the seat up, put a cooler in, still put two people in this boat easily. Even someone my size, someone smaller than me in front of me, but you could put two people in the boat if I was one of those people. Propulsion methods. You can paddle it. Talked about how easy it was to paddle. You can pedal it and get the pivot drive for it and pedal this boat, which I think that's in line with what I would like to do as well. Bow mount motor, torpedo motor, outboard motor, or the EPS. So let's go through these real quick. I have a bow mount motor. I use a Minn Kota Power Drive V2 iPilot. A lot of people use the Motor Guide XI3 kayak version, the 36-inch shaft with the GPS lock. Fantastic option for this boat. It changes the way you fish tremendously. A torpedo motor on the back, what is the 1103 or the 403 AC? That'll make this boat fly. They're really efficient electric motors, and the torpedo comes with a battery and everything. So they're expensive, but from what I've heard, and I mean, I've used one twice, they're 100% worth the investment if you're looking for that type of propulsion. An outboard motor. A lot of guys will put Honda 2.5s on these, and that's a really good option for this boat, especially, you know, if you're into wanting a gas motor on your kayak. That's probably the best option. The EPS is the electric propulsion system. It's similar to the torpedo, but it basically takes an already existing trolling motor, Minn Kota, whatever brand, and it allows it to be mounted to the back of your kayak with controls next to you. So that's also a pretty good option. It's a little cheaper than the Torqeedo, but you'll need your own battery for it. But that's a system that NuCanoe sells separately. So it's definitely a good option for that. The price on the Frontier 12 with the bench seat is $12.99. With the Fusion seat is $14.99. Let's look at the specs real quick. It's Frontier 12. They call it the Frontier 12 because it's 12 feet. It's 41 inches wide. So from the widest point to the widest point is 41 inches wide. That's crazy to me. I think that's absolutely insane. The height is 12 to 17 inches. It drafts in 3 to 5 inches. The whole weight is 77 pounds. I talked about that in my last video, how that number, that 77 pounds is amazing for a 41-inch boat. Like, that's absolutely bonkers to me that a 41-inch wide boat weighs 77 pounds. Other boats in that same width category will be well over 100 pounds. So think about that 30 pounds of saving when you're thinking about a 41-inch boat. Primary seating, 1 to 2 people. Junior seating, that's something that NuCanoe does offer for the Pursuit and the Frontier, is that they offer a junior seat, and that's easy to add anywhere along here because of the tracks. And that's in both boats. There's tracks in both boats that they can mount to. So, you know, don't say that the Pursuit can't handle 2 people. It definitely does. So that's something to think about too. Max weight, 650 pounds. You can bring a lot of stuff, like 100%. You can bring everything in your garage. Self-bailing capacity is 400 pounds. That's good for someone like me because I'm a big guy and I don't want to have that wet of a ride. Max power 2.5 horses. So as you can see, there's freedom tracks all along this. So basically it gives you unlimited options to mount things to these tracks. Let's go over what I have real quick. So I use these rear tracks for strap points for my black pack. And then these over here, I'm doing something a little different this year. I got some Yak Gadget accessories coming, and I'm gonna mount my fish finder to them and store the battery under my seat in a drawer that I'm kind of putting together. The other thing I have is the dashboard, so that goes across from here to here, and that holds another camera for me, as well as, you know, it just kind of is nice to rest my net on and things like that. Let's see, I have the bow mount on the front. I store extra soft plastics in the hatch. The hatch is sealed pretty well, and it comes with a kind of like a sack, like an insert that's soft. But you can put things in there. You can take it out, remove it, and put things under it, and then put it back in. So there's pretty good storage in this boat. So yeah, moving on. The Fusion seat. Like I said, I haven't gotten my hands on it yet. I've sat in it, and I am very happy with it. So I need to get one for myself. It's very self-explanatory, the difference in seat from the Pinnacle seat to the new Fusion seat. The fabric's different, the construction, the shape. It's all better for your body, which is sounds good to me. So there is a quick overview of the NuCanoe Frontier 12. Now let's hop over to the NuCanoe Pursuit page, and we'll talk about that. I mean, there are some differences for sure right off the bat that are noticeable, but there's some things that they share that I think are really important to how customizable these boats are. So let's hop in and we will see what we got. Performance to reach your potential. A competitive angler's dream, speed and stability. Correct on both accounts. Super stable boats, and paddle ability makes this one of the fastest paddling boats out there. The sharp angle of the keel makes this cut through water really nicely, and it just is a smooth paddling machine. I have yet to put any kind of propulsion on my Pursuit. I know for a fact that it paddles like an absolute dream. I've had it on big water, I've had it on rivers, I've had it on ponds, little itty bitty ponds. It does really well in all circumstances. So competitive angler's dream. I spent one tournament season in the Pursuit and one tournament season in the Frontier, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. Loads of deck space, horizontal rod storage, a wide open deck, and more. Paddles like a champ, just like I was saying. Add the pivot drive or a motor for a full setup that will take you to the fish and the podium. A lot of guys that have done really well in the tournament trails rock a Pursuit. You know, I had one of my best seasons ever in a Pursuit 3 years ago. My first Pursuit that I had, Old Blue, and it really does a good job of allowing you to focus on fishing, because it takes a lot of the guesswork out of what you need to do, as far as worrying about your stability or worrying about how tired you're going to be from paddling to a spot. It's just a good looking kayak to me. It's sharp. It's got really clean lines. It just looks straight up good. Oh, who's this? Who's this character? We'll go down to the propulsion methods. Same as the Frontier. Paddle, pivot, bow mount, torpedo, outboard, and EPS. Like I said, same exact things. They're all just going to perform a little bit differently on this boat because of that hull design. Go over some of the specs. As you can see, the length of this boat is 13 feet 6 inches, so it's a full 1.5 feet bigger than the Frontier 12. So you're going to get some more length, which allows that boat to be narrow and able to have that shape to be able to paddle so well. The width is 35 inches, so you're losing 6 inches from the Frontier to the Pursuit as far as width goes. Does that make a difference? Yes, it does. Is it significant enough to notice? Not necessarily. I mean, obviously the Frontier 12 is probably the most rock solid boat out there, especially in the NuCanoe lineup. Going from the Frontier to the Pursuit, and the amount of time I've spent on both of those platforms, I don't notice too much of a difference. Now, I'm not saying you should just go out there and stand and dance. You need to understand the secondary stability of both of those boats. You need to push it to the limits to really test it and really see where you're comfortable at. With that being said, the Pursuit is a rock solid stable boat as well, just not as stable as the Frontier. So if that's something you're looking for, the Frontier is going to be the more stable option than the two of them. The Pursuit is still a very stable boat. Don't get me wrong. It's very good. The height is 12 inches. The draft is 3 to 5 inches. Both of them draft 3 to 5 inches of water. Probably more like less than that for me, but the fact that you can get so shallow with these boats is a pretty big deal to me, because I didn't want to be futzing with a pedal drive in front of me and having to pull it out when I get shallow. The fact that I can fish shallow with these boats, not have to worry about any of that, is pretty stellar. The max weight is another difference. The max weight of the Pursuit is 500 pounds. The max weight of the Frontier 12 is 650, so that's something to think about. You're losing 150 pounds of capacity between the two. If you bring the entire fishing section of Bass Pro with you, you're going to want a Frontier. If you're pretty minimal and you pick and choose your tackle wisely, I mean, you could still bring a ton of stuff. I still brought, I don't know, 6 3700 boxes, a battery, fish finder, the whole shebang, 8 rods on the Pursuit with me, no issue. So you can still bring a ton, but if you're bringing the whole Bass Pro Shops, you want the Frontier. If you're bringing half the Bass Pro Shops, you want the Pursuit. The self-bailing capacity, you lose 50 pounds between the two of them. It's 400 for the Frontier 12. It's 350 for the Pursuit. But the big difference is that the Frontier only has 2 scupper holes. The Pursuit will have 4. So that means it's gonna be able to distribute that water that does get in a little bit better. I always plug them usually anyway, so that was never really a big deal to me. The rear tank wells, both of them do hold a little bit of water, so that's something to think about too. When you are making that choice, is that they both hold a little bit of water in those tank wells. So another few differences between the actual physical pieces of the boat. Let's start with the most obvious one. In the Pursuit, there is 2 flush rod holders. So this one comes out of the box ready for an angler. You don't even need a crate or rod holders necessarily right away. It's got 2 rod holders right there for you behind the seat. On top of that, the 2021 version of the Pursuit will have 2 internal rod tubes. This is the 2020 version. It has 4 internal rod tubes. They took it down to 2 to make sure it was a little bit more watertight and improve the design a little bit. So basically out of the box, depending if you get a 2020 or a 2021, you have storage for at least 4 fishing rods right off the bat. So you know that you have a safe place for 4 of your rods immediately. And I think that's a pretty substantial difference between the two boats. You don't have that in the Frontier at all. There's no flush mount rod holders, and the internal rod storage in the Frontier is set up a little bit differently to not necessarily be rod storage. It's just kind of protection if you need it in a quick flash. And that's kind of how I used it anyway. So something to think about when you are choosing between the two is that the Pursuit does come ready to carry 4 rods out of the box, like immediately. So definitely something to think about. The next major difference I touched on is the scupper plugs. There's 4 in the Pursuit, 2 in the Frontier. Talked about it already. Moving on. The next big difference is that front hatch size. In the Pursuit, you're going to get a bigger hatch size because it's a 1.5 foot longer boat. So obviously you're going to get a much bigger hatch. With that being said, the Pursuit and the Frontier both come with that hatch storage. The difference between the two is that in the Pursuit, it's going to be a hard shell, which I actually prefer over the kind of soft vinyl bag that you get with the Frontier. If they did the hard shell in the Frontier, I'd be a happy camper. But yeah, that's the big difference is that you're going to get a bigger hatch and you're going to get that hard plastic shell tub for the Pursuit. Whereas you're going to get a smaller hatch in the Frontier 12 and you're going to get that vinyl kind of gear bag that goes in the front. The other main difference between the two boats is that you get a 6-inch deck plate in the back of the Pursuit. Now that's going to be helpful when you're rigging your boat, wiring it for a motor, trying to get Panoptics in there somehow, and you got all these millions of wires. It's just going to be easier to rig that boat having access in the front hatch and access in the rear hatch. Rigging the Frontier 12 was difficult because the only access we had in the back was the hole that we created when we were trying to put the plug in. So something to think about if you're really trying to push this thing over the edge with all the things that you want on this boat. The other big differences are the Freedom Track placements. In the Pursuit, the Freedom Tracks will be on the ground for majority of the boat. Will be on the floor of the boat. And that's where your seat gets mounted to. I mounted a whole bunch of dumb stuff to it too, as well as the foot pegs and all sorts of NuCanoe stuff. There's plenty of Freedom Track in both of these boats. I do like the way the Frontier's Freedom Tracks are set up, how they run parallel to the floor. They're raised up a little bit, so I think there's a little more use in that. But you still get really good use out of the bow Freedom Tracks and the stern Freedom Tracks. I like the way those are set up in the Pursuit. Other than that, there's not many too drastic differences between the two boats. I would say that those are the main differences that are between the Frontier and the Pursuit. So I'm sitting here editing this video and realized I didn't wrap it all up. So here's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna wrap it up for you. The Pursuit versus the Frontier is not necessarily a head-to-head battle because I think both boats serve different purposes. I think for me personally, the Frontier wins because the Frontier is the end-all be-all for a big guy when it comes to kayak fishing. Someone of my size, bigger, slightly smaller, the Frontier is going to be the perfect boat for you because of that stability and the width of that. You're just going to be more comfortable because we're wider human beings. And if you're a wider human being, you're going to want a wider boat. But that's not to say I don't love the Pursuit. I love the Pursuit because it's easy to paddle, super maneuverable, and it's just as customizable as the Frontier. So when you're going through the specs and trying to figure out which one matters most to you, think about the things that we talked about in those differences, you know, the rod holders or the size of the front hatch, those actual technical differences, and see which one you'd be more inclined to being worried about. If you know you need rod holders, get the Pursuit. If you know you don't need that extra front hatch space, look into the Frontier. Definitely get out on the water and try and demo both of them. If you're in the southeastern PA region, definitely hit me up. We can demo both boats. Not an issue. I'll definitely get out there on the water with anyone that would like to try these boats. So hit me up if you want a demo. And yeah, and leave comments, questions. Hit me up on Instagram if you have any more ideas or questions. Anyways, thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next video. If you want more information on the Frontier 12, go check out my last one. It's a full, honest review on it. I do have a review of the Pursuit from way back when I had my blue one, so definitely check that out too if you'd like. But yeah, lots of cool things coming from NuCanoe in 2021. Some of the changes to the Pursuit I do want to review once I get my hands-on look at them, so I can really be honest with you about them. Yeah, so here we go, 2021. Let's start this off with a good video.